All right. Welcome, everybody, to Canhammer TV. It is June 22nd, 2 days before the release of New 40K. We still don't have the GT missions, and we still don't have Forgeworld datasheets, but more on that coming soon. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It is episode 75 of Custodes Tactica. We will definitely hit 100, probably sooner than later, and we'll have to think of something good for episode 100. But thanks. This is episode 75. We are talking about Forgeworld, or lack thereof, or partly thereof. Shout out to the stream. Right now we have watching Sean Stryker and Adam Davies, who is home from work and gets to watch live for the first time, which is great. And there is a poll up in the chat, everybody, on your opinion on the Forgeworld leaks or trawling that we have so far. Not really leaks, really. There's a poll up, so put your opinion in the poll, and at the end of the show, we'll see what people think. Let's get right into it. So before we start going over these things, I did promise people a Forgeworld rant. If you're on the Discord, and if you're not, you should be on the Discord, there is... people know of my various rants on various topics, Tau, Titanic and Knights, and Forgeworld is one of my favorite things to rant about. And by the way, if you're not on the Discord, please join the Discord. It's the Canhammer Discord. You can find it on our website. And it is the home of the Custodes Collective, where we talk about Custodes 24 hours a day, all the time, in a friendly, respectable manner. We have really good players in there, and there's a lot of wisdom flying back and forth. And if you want to be in the know, that's where you need to be. All of these things that we'll be talking about tonight are on there, as well as all the other releases and PDFs and things all pinned up in the channel. So it's a great place to go. You can bounce around your lists, and you can follow the show on there. Shout out also to the man Protocultures, who runs the Custodes Central channel here on YouTube. And he puts out kind of almost like lecture type videos. It's literally like a lecture because it's a PowerPoint and he talks. But they're basically lecture type videos on very specific topics or interesting things in Custodes, competitive Custodes play. He's a big member of our Discord community, and so shout out to him and making those videos. They're really cool. And somebody asked me, well, this is like a competition for you, two Custodes channels. I'm like, it's not a competition at all. In fact, it's quite complementary. We talk about the same thing sometimes, but we also approach things from a different point of view. And the more the better, to be honest. So check out his channel. It's called Custodes Central. Okay, so I won't rant too hard about Forgeworld because my daughter's sitting over there and I can't swear. But let's just say that it's a little bit of a black box what's happening with Forgeworld. We don't really know. We know that they took over the rules writings. We know a whole bunch of stuff got legended. And so what's left is basically just Knights, Titans, and Custodes. Everything else basically got legended for the most part. And which is cool because like most of that stuff is useless anyway. Let's just clean it up, get rid of it all. Part of the problem is half of our model range is Forgeworld, which I'm not complaining about. I love the fact that we have more than just our plastic models, and we're actually the only faction that's like that, except maybe Knights, but they don't really count. Who likes Knights? People don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining that, we don't have or have all these extra rules, or we don't have them. I'm complaining about the fact that it's so poorly done. All up to now, every time there's a release, a codex release, new edition release, they have an opportunity to integrate the two halves of our army. But for whatever reason, it has not been done. There's always a delay between one half of our army coming out and the other half of our army coming out. And one half changes, the other half takes some time to change. And it's really annoying. Not to mention the fact that half of our army is resin and about 3 times the price and difficult to get. Fine. I'm not complaining. We have models that we can use and they're cool models. but it's just the asynchronous nature of half of our army is really annoying. So lo and behold, now we have an opportunity where everything is digital. Day zero, digital everything. And what happens? We have to wait again for the second half of our army, when all you have to do is Control C and Control V. How difficult is that? It's not difficult. I'd do it right now if I wasn't going to mess my stream up. Control C, Control V, okay? Highlight Forgeworld, Control C, go into Index, Control V, boom, done. Why this cannot be done, I have no idea. There's literally no possible reason for it at all when it's a purely digital publication. So interestingly enough, today I don't know if they intended to, but they released in the Venatori field manual digital document at the end of the Custodes list was the Forgeworld points. And then rumor has it that, but they didn't announce that. They have not announced they're releasing the data sheets. It's just the Forgeworld points showed up in the field manual. Some enterprising person checked it and it's there. Like, what's going on? It's just, it's ridiculous. It's in the app. All the stuff we get tonight is data mined from the app, which was released yesterday. So it's in there. So why can't they just release it? Why couldn't they release it at the same time as the index data sheets? I do not understand after... Like, this is not an addition to just plan 6 months ago. I don't know what's going on. It blows my mind. And then, what data sheets do we get from Forgeworld? All the stuff you can't use anymore. All the legended data sheets have all been released. So if you want to use a Mastodon or Thunderhawk, go ahead. Rip my Mastodon and Thunderhawk. I'm going to sell them now. But the stuff we actually can use, nowhere to be seen. Blows my mind. Okay, anyway, that's my Forgeworld rant. Clean version. Okay, so moving on to what we know. So first of all, big shout out to the people, whoever they were, who basically data mined through the new 40K app and found all this information. And then shout out to everybody who put it together. There were a few guys on Discord all racing to put this into a legible manner, and so you can find that on the Discord, and I've kind of summarized it here per unit as well as we go over it. So shout out to all those people. There also, as I said, Protocultures has a good video of it on Custodes Central, so you can check it out, but I'm going to give it my own little flavor. Okay, so our index is good. So we have really good, codex or index. The plastic range is good. And we've talked about that at length, and I think, we're probably up there in terms of powerful factions. I think AOW thought that we were S tier, and whatever tier you want to call it. But we're not suffering, so we're not complaining that the Forgeworld is late and that we suck because of no Forgeworld. But if half of the data sheets in your codex didn't come out, you would be upset, right? Whether it was good or not is irrelevant. It's just that it's not there when they've had all this time to prepare. So, yeah. Okay, so we don't need Forgeworld to be good. We don't need the Forgeworld to be competitive. And in fact, I'd much rather just use plastic and no Forgeworld. However, we are missing some things that could round us out really nicely. Some mobility, some anti-vehicle shooting, and maybe just a bit of shooting in general. And so it would be nice if the other half of our army could give us some of this, which traditionally it has. So we still hold up hope. And at the worst, Forgeworld is crappy and we're still good. So the Forgeworld releases won't make us worse. They'll just either not be useful or make us better. So whatever we get is whatever we get. But let's see what people manage to dig up from the app. We're going to go unit by unit. So first unit, and I'm going to show you my models because I haven't touched them in a while. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the Venatori. All right, and one cool thing about the Venatori models are the pistols are just amazing. I don't know if you can see this, but the pistols on the Venatori models are super cool. But Anyway, yeah, so Venatori. Okay, so we have big hopes for Venatori because they are 12-inch, well, we think 12-inch fly infantry, and fly infantry is king. It always has been king, but now it's even more king because everything other than fly infantry has to go around or over terrain now, and these guys just go through it. So fly infantry, super great. So we have high hopes for these guys. At the end of the last edition, they were pretty good. Lances particularly, but again, just 12-inch flying infantry doing actions, very mobile. So, Venatori, super useful. So we want them to be good. So what do we know about Venatori? So let's talk about some of the things we know. So we know that the pistol is 12-inch range, 2 shots, 6 -1, 1, -1 AP, 1 damage, with sustained hits 1 and pistol. That's okay. It's not great. 6 -1, 1 is half of what it used to be, which is 6 -2, 2. And sustained hits 1 is fine, except it's only 2 shots. So you're not even going to sustain that many hits, to be honest. And, pistol, yeah, it was pistol before. 12-inch range, I believe, is shorter than it used to be. I think it was 18 before. So basically, the pistols kind of got junked. The lance. So the lance shooting is basically a guardian spear shooting. 24-inch, 2 shots, 4 -1, 2 damage, assault. So it's basically guardian spear shooting, standard shooting. So that's fine. The buckler gives you 4 wounds. Presumably that means that they are 3 wounds, which you would expect. It's interesting that even though it's the same rule as the Presidium shield, it is worded differently because Forgeworld, I don't understand it. But anyways, +1 wound basically if you have the buckler. And then the melee on the buckler is 5 attack. It's basically Misericordia, so it's 5 attacks, 5 -2, 1 damage. So that's kind of disappointing, but kind of what we expected. Like, the buckler is not supposed to be a combat beast. And the lance, the spears in melee is basically guardian spear. So 5 attacks, 7 -2, 2 damage, which is good. So all in all, it looks like spears win out. They have better shooting, longer range, and better melee at the expense of 1 wound. Their ability that we know about is once per battle, they get a free rapid ingress stratagem, and also if they've already used it on somebody. So that is really amazing. So yeah, like, free rapid ingress means these guys are not going to get shot off, and then you bring them in. They do have to survive 1 round of opponent's turn, but you can put them into cover or in a rune or something out of line of sight, and then next turn they get to do everything they want, and that's free, and you can do that to something else as well. So presumably, actually, if you have multiple Venatori units, you could do that from all of them. So that is really good, once per battle ability. These guys are 235 points for 3 models. So that, okay, don't get me started on this. So they spend all this time trying to get things to multiples of 5 and work out, AOSing the points. And then they have these guys who are like decimal point points. So 76.86 repeating points per model. Like, anyway, blows my mind. But anyway, so 235 points for 3 guys. That's 76.8 points each, so let's call it 77, and comes in units of 3 or 6, and 6 would be 470 points. So that's expensive. Now, they used to be 655, and they are now 76 for the privilege of fly infantry, and a free rapid ingress. So yeah, that's kind of expensive. They're cheaper than bikes, which are the only other 12-inch moving kind of, other non-vehicle unit that we have. Bikes move 12 now. So what don't we know about Venatori? We don't know what their save is. Are they 2+ like the Blade Champ became 2+, or are they 3+? The invuln presumably is 4+ invuln. Is their movement still 12-inch like other jetpacks, or did they get a nerf as well? Who knows? People like it should be the same. Well, Forgeworld, guys, like anything is possible. Okay. What is their always on ability? Everybody's supposed to have 2 abilities, one always on, one once per battle. And are they leaderless? Can anybody join them? Can a biker cap join them? We don't have a jetpack leader, so what is their leader status? In general, what is the leader status for all the Forgeworld non-vehicles? Because it's not in the index data sheets that these leaders can join these units. So are they going to be retconned? Is there going to be like a thing? We don't really know what the status of leadership is for the Forgeworld units. So we need to see some data sheets. So those are the things we don't know. So overall, I think we will probably try these guys. I think they are maybe better than bikes for less. And because of the fly infantry and bikes aren't faster anymore, I think that might put them on top. I think they're expensive. I don't know if they're worth 77 points each, but it's what we got, and I suspect we're going to use them and see. Lances for sure. I don't think +1 wound is worth no output, basically. Like, what are you going to kill with the other stuff? Like, nothing? I think you try a unit of 3. I don't think you go 6. 6 is too many points, like 500 points. I think you go a unit of 3, assuming leaderless. You just rapid ingress them in for free. And you start off with 1 or 2 units and see how it goes. So yeah, I think they definitely have play, especially with the missions, and that could help you increase your mobility a lot without having to run bikes. Okay, so that's Venatori. Don't forget, guys, if you just joined us, so Hans Yolo, the Azazel, can someone link the Discord for the Azazel, please, in the chat? We got Sychronos, which I think is Mr. Funk, I can't remember. And Thurgood's here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Jason C's here. Don't forget, guys, there is a poll going right now on your thoughts on Forgeworld, so do vote in the poll. Okay. Yeah, so people are mentioning, I think they also have Lance. So, do they have Lance? I can't remember. I'm not sure. Oh, and Trajan Valoris, Mr. Heresy himself, posting all the Eldar and like Chaos Knights in the Discord. Okay. So next up, we got Sags. Okay. So Sags are these guys. Sagittarum. Alright. And Sagittarum were actually quite good in the last edition in big bunches, because they put out a lot of shooting. Heavy bolter shooting, the Adrathic shooting, and just ignoring just having the -1 anyway because it was just stacked up, and rerolls. And so Sags, and every time I played people with bunches of Sags, people would be like, whoa, those guys shoot a lot. And I was like, yeah, Sags shoot a lot. And then you put them into emissaries, and they would ignore that -1, and yeah, so they had a role for sure, and they were troops. So here's what we know about Sags. Their gun has been hit, it's been nerfed. There's just one profile now, as far as we know. Maybe there's another profile we don't know about. 36 inches, 3 shots, 5 -1, 2 damage, sustained hits 1. So it's basically a heavy bolter, which it was before, to be honest. So it is again a heavy bolter, sustained 1 on 3 shots. Okay, 5 -1, 2 damage. So it's slightly better than this Guardian Spear shooting, not a lot. And that's all we know about their weapons. Do they, their ability, once per game, they can put devastating wounds on that. So again, sustained hits does not trigger. And so, devastating wounds on like 3 shots. I mean, it's not super great. There does not seem to be an Adrathic profile to them anymore, although we don't know that for sure. Remember, that disclaimer applies to the whole show tonight, is that we don't have the data sheets. They are 250 points, and you must take 5 of them. So They are more than Guardians, and you have to take 205 of them at one time. I'm not sure why this decision was made, but there it is. So I don't know. That seems like, yeah. I think if you're gonna take them, you would take 5. But it just seems like weird. I think they come in 3s, although you can buy the guns in packs of 5s. Like it's really messed up. Don't get me started on that again. So what don't we know about Sags? Number 1, do they have Misericordia anymore? I mean, everybody else lost their Misericordia. So do Sags have a melee profile at all? It was pretty shitty before, but like, do they have anything now? Or is it just close combat weapon? Are they punching people? Like, what's going on with that? Number 2, are they battle line? They were troops before, so are they battle line now? If they are, because we don't know about leaders, Custodes leaders, if they'll be retconned to join Sags, we could put them with Inquisitors, and there's some intriguing combos there, like Anti-Psyker and stuff like that. But we don't know if they're battle line, and again, what's up with the leaders. So overall, their shooting is not that much better than Guardians, and Guardians can double shoot, remember? Are they worth 5 points more at a minimum of 5? I don't know. It's kind of cumbersome for list building. Our list building has been made super cumbersome. If you've been building any lists over the last few days, it's been driving you crazy, and it has been driving me crazy. I suspect it's a conspiracy so that all Custodes list ends up with 65 points left over. So I'm not sure there's a role for Sags. You know, even a group of 5, that's 15 shots, maybe hit a couple of 6s, you know, maybe like a few devastating wounds. Like, I don't feel like there's a huge role, but they do provide some shooting at 36 inches. But as you can see coming up, for 250, for less than that, I have other things to shoot instead of Sagittarum. So, and they're like foot guys, and so overall, I'm unimpressed with Sagittarum. I'm not going to use them to start with. Okay. Next unit. Big boys, Aquilon Terminators. Okay, so these chunky boys, which I remind you come on 50mm bases, which is super annoying. So the big boys, the big Terminators. Well, I assume they're Terminators still. We haven't seen the data sheet. But what do we know about them? So Fire Pike is, as we would assume, 12 inches, D6 flamer, 6-1/1, ignores cover, and torrent. So that's exactly as we would expect, no surprise there. Lastrum is same as before, 24 inch, 2 shots, 5-1/1. I think that lost a point of strength, and rapid fire 2. So that's pretty similar to what it was before. The Adrathic has changed across the board. It's lost AP, but kept the damage and increased in strength. So Adrathic is 18 inch, 1 shot, 6-2, 3 damage, twin linked, so re-rolling wounds. So that's pretty good. Still short range, but the kicker is it's still 1 shot, which is real shitty. But it is twin link, so at least you're gonna not fluff as much with the low strength. So it's got something. So Talons, 7 attacks, 7-2, 1 damage. No rerolls at all, which kind of sucks. Fists, 5 attacks, 8-2, 2. So took a nerf from strength 10, -2, 2 damage. So at least, as far as we know, there's no hit penalty on it, which really sucked. So I don't know, the fists are kind of meh. So their ability that we know about is from Golden Light. So they get to do what Alaris can do, except it says worded differently. It says you can put them into strategic reserve, not deep strike. Like basically it doesn't say deep strike on the Alaris, but it tells you what to do with them. This says put it into strategic reserve. So that technically limits your options in terms of coming back in. So it's a slight difference and maybe not quite as good, not as flexible. Again, I'm not sure why it's worded differently. It's like, why is the buckler worded differently than the Presidium Shield? Because Forgeworld. But it is what it is. It is what is written. So that's interesting. Okay. Next, they are 230 points for 3 or 460 for 6. So that works out to 76.6 repeating points per model. So it is 11.66 repeating points more than an Alaris. And you take them in 3 to 6. No flexibility of 2s, 3s, or 5s or 6. 3 to 6. So what we don't know their stats. Presumably they are the same as Alaris Terminators, but you never know. Hashtag Forgeworld. Presumably they have Deep Strike. Again, you never know. We don't know their always on ability. And again, leaders, like, will the Alaris captain be able to go with these guys? Like, are they going to be leaderless? So, you know, there's a lot still that we don't know. So overall, they are more expensive than Alaris, less flexible in their unit size, and you know, the shooting doesn't really give us something that we don't have or that we can't get anywhere else for a minimum of 230 points. Right, the Flamer, yeah, okay, let's do some Overwatch with the Flamers. That's kind of fun. I've done that a number of times. It is fun, but it's not worth that many points. The Lastrum is lackluster. Adrathic is good, again, but too few shots. And the Fist just took a nerf, like a hard nerf. Arguably, like, they're probably about the same as Axes, and that's not saying much. Yeah, like less strength, but you know, yeah, they're probably not even as good as Axes. I don't know. They just feel really bad. So I think it's pretty crap. And Alaris got a glow up. You can take them in units of 2s, which is amazing. They have a lot of flexibility, and they have those 50mm bases are stupid. And I think basically, if you want to run these guys, you got to run a unit of 6, and that's just way too many points investments. So, yeah, like, so like, you know, so I think if you roll these guys, I think you're probably running Fists, because it is better than Guardian Spear for sure, but you're paying, you know, 31 points more than a Guardian for +1 strength, and that might not actually matter too much. But you know, the Terminators actually with the axes and the grenades got a glow up, probably have better shooting than like the Lastrum. So like, yeah, I don't think these guys are worth it. Unfortunately, I do love my Aquilon despite their stupid bases, but yeah, Fat Boy's gotta go back in the bag, I think. Okay, next we have Special Spearboys. Alright, so we got Adrosite and Pyrethite Spearboys, which I'm going to lump together because they're basically as useless as each other. So they're Guardians. So the Adrathic is, well, presumably they are Guardian stat lines. Presumably, because Forgeworld. But they have Adrosite shooting now is not Adrathic anymore. It's Adrosite is different. 18-inch, 1 shot, 5 -2, 3 damage. So it's literally the old Adrathic with less AP and not twin linked. So it's literally worse than every other Adrathic shot in the army for some reason. 1 shot. The Pyrethite is basically Melta. So 12-inch Melta, 1 shot, 9 -4, D6 with Melta 2 rule. So it's basically 1 Melta shot at 12-inch range, so you're only even getting the Melta at 6-inch range. Not even long enough like when you deep strike in. So yeah, that ain't great. And then the melee is just the Guardian Spear. A unit of 5, 325. So again, minimum unit of 5 guys at 65 points each. Just makes it so inflexible and hyper expensive. Yeah. What we don't know, of course, we don't know any of their abilities on their datasheet. Are they getting Guardian abilities? Because double shooting makes it a little bit better, a little bit. But are they double shooting? Do they have the Guardian abilities, or do they get something different? Who knows? Presumably they're battle line. Of course, we don't know. Do they count as Guardians in terms of leaders? So can we get captains joining them? So they may come up a little bit in value if they get all the normal stuff, that if they're basically just Guardians with different weapon options for 20 points extra. personally, I'm not sure it's worth 20 points extra for that Adrosite shooting, and we definitely don't need the Melta. So, again, and then a minimum 325. That's like a lot of 1.5 Custodes tanks. So, you're going to see, like, you have to compare internally when it comes to it, and these guys just don't add up. So overall, you know, the shooting is kind of meh, and very inflexible. You know, I don't see us running these guys. Okay. Next up, we got Agamatis bikes, or dick bikes as I like to call them. And yes, I have 6 of these. Don't ask me why. And yes, they are Forgeworld. Don't ask me why. I've played them one time in those stupid spinny bases. Anyway. Okay, so dick bikes. So they have 3 weapon options. And you know, the big thing about dick bikes was we used to pay premium for the weapons. So the last thing used to be like 30 points. And so and then they never got made better like the real bikes did. So, you know, it's like, yeah, it was like really stupid. So what are they going to do this time? So can they make them useful? Because our normal bikes kind of took a hit. So Adrathic, 18-inch again, 1 shot, but they have 7 -2, 3 damage. So a bit more strength, but no twin length. So again, like, why are some of them twin length and some of them not? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's no consistency. Like I said, it's like they asked different people to write each unit and then never got to talk to each other, and then they just stuck them in to an index, into a PDF, and like they never talked to each other. They never read the index Custodes. There's just like random rules. It's just weird. Okay, Lastrum is 36-inch, 3 shots, 6 -1, 1, sustained hits 1. And the Laz Pulsar, saving grace. Could we get some Laz in there? Mobile Laz, 24-inch, 2 shots, 9 -1, 2 damage, twin length. So it's actually more like the Iliastus than like a Laz profile, but it's not bad. 2 shots, 9 -1, 2 damage, twin length. So it's not bad, not bad. So we know they have a one-time ability to fire and fade, basically move 6 inches after shooting if they're not in engagement. It's too bad they couldn't just be allowed to move normally, but move 6 inches, that's their one-time ability. They are 3 for 280 points, so 93 points each. 93.3 repeating. And yeah, so they are more expensive than normal bikes with not very much improvement. We don't know the melee stats. Presumably they're the same as Virtus Praetors, and we don't know their stats. Are they like normal bikes? People would say, yeah, it's obvious, but no, it's not obvious because they weren't like normal bikes before. So can they go with leaders? Can the shield captain go with them? So we don't know that. And what's their always on ability? We don't know that either. So again, at their cost, I just don't think they cut it. There's no flexibility in numbers, 3 or 6. So that's like 300 points or 600 points. It's just not great. The Adrathic is always enticing, but again, 1 shot, non-twin linked. So few rerolls these days. You could easily fluff that unit more times than not. The Laz, again, is probably the best shooting option because we don't pay as much of a premium now. We used to pay like 30 points for the Laz profile. But it's still a premium for these models. These models are stupid. They're stupid long. The bases are stupid. And they're crazy expensive. Like $60 for like one model. So, meh, forget it. No dig bikes. Okay. Now we're getting into some of the juicy stuff. So most of that stuff was lackluster. Now we're going to get into some juicy stuff. Okay. Boris. The Achilles Dreadnought. Boris. Okay. So Boris, I think, actually got a little bit of a hit. We were seeing a lot of dreads at the end of 9th. A lot of dreads. Dread spam was like a thing. Achilles Dreadnought had a role. Galatas Dreadnought had a role. And so we're seeing a lot of them. So can the Acolyte survive into the next edition? So first of all, the spear shooting is only 12 inches now. I believe it was longer before. It is one shot. I think it was 2 shots before. One shot, 9 minus 2, 3, which is, I think, basically what it was like before. It sort of hasn't been updated. It's almost like the person hasn't changed it at all. It's a decent profile, but it's literally one shot at 12 inches. Not going to be killing anybody all the time. The flamer is 12 inches. It says one shot, so it doesn't really seem like it's a flamer. It has torrent and ignores cover, and it's 6 minus 1 1, but it says one shot. So I don't know, might be an error, but it's probably just a normal D6 flamer. It doesn't seem like it has an Adrathic option anymore. So it used to have Adrathic, and it doesn't seem like it has it. And it doesn't seem like we got a Lastrum option on it anymore. I'm sure they're in there and they just didn't data mine it out. But it's not in the information that we have. The Lastrum and the Adrathic profiles. So, yeah, maybe I just missed it. And the spear in melee. So 5 attacks, 12, minus 2, D6 plus 1, and lance. So that is okay. I think it used to do more damage, but it has an extra attack. Strength 12, so it's like okay, like land raiders on 4s, re-rolling with the lance. So yeah, it is what it is. Its special ability is if it's in engagement range, it does impact mortals. So it does D3 mortals on a 4 or 5, or 3 mortals on a 6. And if you charge, it adds +2 to the roll. So actually, on a 1, it still does nothing, but on a 2 or 3, it does D3, and on a 4 up, it does 3 mortal wounds. So I mean, that's pretty good. It's pretty good, but yeah. It's only 155 points, so it's pretty cheap. Like, it's cheaper than the stupid-looking Dread by a lot, by like 30 points or whatever, I can't remember. So it's pretty cheap, and like, you know, you're making these stupid lists with 5 units here and 6-man units here, and you're left with 155 points, and you don't really know what's happening. So it's pretty good for 155 points. You really can't really complain about it. It's a nice price. It is 20 points cheaper than the Galatus, which we're going to talk about next. And it'd be nice if it had maybe one more attack, couple more attacks. But Strength 12 is good. It's got Lance. We have like Slayers. So overall, I feel like it's pretty good for 155 just as an all-out offensive Dreadnought that will probably bite it. What we don't know is its stats. Is it the same as the other Dreadnoughts? Is it slightly different? We don't know that for sure. We don't know its save and its invuln. Presumably it's 2 up, 5 up, but we don't know for sure. And we don't know its other ability. Is it a Dreadnought res like all the other Dreadnoughts? I don't know. That would be pretty sweet for 155 points. But we don't know that. So as what we know, I feel like the Acolyte is actually pretty good for 155 points. It's going to do some work. It's going to throw out some mortals here and there. So, you know, I think it's decent. Which takes us to Doris. Boris and Doris. If you don't know that reference from True Lies, what's my code name? What's your code name? Boris. Oh, what's my code name? Natasha? Doris. Okay, so we got Doris, which is the Galatus Dread. Okay, now the person who wrote the Galatus rules must have like had some coke or something, because the Galatas is looking pretty spicy. So the sword is a flamer, so 12-inch D6, 6 minus 1, 1 blah. It doesn't say torrent or ignore cover, but presumably it's there. And it doesn't have any other shooting. In melee, the sword now does 8 attacks flat, no more D3 business. 8 minus 2, 3 damage. So its strength went up. Although with the toughness going up, that jump is not a huge change. Minus 2, I think it used to be minus 3, and flat 3 damage. One of few things, other than Trajan, I believe, that does flat 3 damage in combat. So, yeah, like 8 attacks. That's why I feel like the Achilles could do with like one more attack, but 8 minus 2, 3 damage is pretty sweet. On top of that, the shield gives it minus 1 to wound in melee. So shooting, it's still a bit vulnerable, but in melee is minus 1 to wound, which means, presuming it is T10 or T9, you would need strength 18 or more to wound it on a 3 or better. And you would never wound it on a, I guess I don't know if there's strength like 30 guns right now, but you would always wound it on a 3 up at worst, at best. So I feel like it's pretty good. Now, of course, you can shoot it to death. And it can fall back and shoot and charge. Wow, whoever wrote this rule is like, and that's the all the time ability. We don't know the once ability. Is it a dread res? That would be crazy. So he can fall back and then just keep going. So yeah, that is amazing. And it is 175 points. It is just 20 points more than the Achilles. It's going to be a lot harder to kill in combat anyway. It can shoot and fall back and charge and everything. Yeah, great. What we don't know is its stats and the one-time ability, just like the Achilles. So I think it's really good. And, you know, delivery is a thing. If these dreads have taken a nerf to movement, I mean, they were great before. I think they were 8 or 9 inch movement. But if they've taken a nerf to like 6 inches, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But hey, our whole army move is 6 inches. You could rapid ingress this thing. You could strategic reserve it. So there are options to get this guy. But yeah, I think the Cletus is well worth its 175 and a good bargain. Maybe the winner, close second in the Forgeworld so far. Okay, welcome Nathan Cook. First time catching a live stream. Welcome. Don't forget to do the poll, guys. The poll is up. Okay, so Cletus, thumbs up. Which takes us to dear old Bertha. Bertha, who has had so many ups and downs in her life. She's been really good. She's been triple nerfed. She's been triple Bertha. Bertha has been all over the map. And, you know, she basically is our mini knight and kind of accentuates the problems with Titanic models, even though it's not Titanic, in that you can make it too good or too crappy, but you can never make it just right. And so that is the problem with big models, and Bertha is our little mini version of that problem because she's never been just right. She's always too good or too crappy. So let's see how she ends up. So the little spiculous launcher, 36 inches, which I think is longer range than it was before, maybe. D6 plus 3, and 5, 0, and 1 damage, blast. So that's not too bad. I mean, that overhead gun never really killed much anyway. You would have to stand still to double shoot it, so I guess it's okay. The storm cannons are 24 inch, 12 shots, 6 minus 1, 1. So the Lastrum profile with dev wounds. So that's okay. 12 shots, so 2 storms is 24 shots, 6 minus 1, 1 dev wounds. Iliastus is 48 inches, so twice the range, 4 shots, 9 minus 1, 3 damage. So remember that profile because that's the Iliastus profile. So 9 minus 1, 3 damage. I really hate the minus 1. Minus 2 would have made it so much better. Minus 1 is kind of like meh. But, you know, strength 9, 3 flat damage, decent. 48 inches, good range. And again, 2 of them, so 8 shots. It can stomp people now if you have double gun. So 5 attacks at strength 7, 0 AP, 1 damage. So it's not completely without melee if you have double guns. But if you take the fist, you are getting 5 attacks, 12 minus 2, 3, which is a nerf across the board. It used to be strength 16, I believe. So it used to wound knights on 2s. And it was minus 3, I believe, and 4 flat damage. And so, yeah, the fist took a huge nerf for old Bertha. Not only that, it does not seem, as far as we can tell, that there's any reason to run double fist. because the double fist used to give you extra attack. Now it just one assist. I don't know. We haven't seen the data sheet. So if there's no reason to run double fist, then take a gun and a fist, take a hybrid. And really what you choose to use will depend on what you're trying to shoot. As it always has been, the difference between Arachnus and Iliastus. So, yeah. Now, she has retained -1 damage against all attacks. So that is her always-on ability, -1 damage. Presumably, she's toughness 10 and not 9. Presumably, she's going to be like 14 wounds. I don't know how far she's going to move. If she only moves 6 or 8, it might be kind of meh. Presumably, it's 2 up, 4 up invuln, but might just be 5 up. There's no more feel no pain. Assuming there's no more feel no pain, and we don't know her once a game ability. So, and she is 235 points, which is 20 points more than a Cletus. Spoilers. So I just feel like the Telemon, so it's always been about, do I want a Telemon or do I want a Cletus? The Telemon can punch, the Cletus can't, but the Telemon doesn't shoot as well as the Cletus. When the Telemon first came out, it shot better than the Cletus. But, so do I want this or that? The Cletus moves faster, the Telemon doesn't move as much, but this can punch. Double punchy was super fun. And, you know, rapid ingress, fisty Bertha sounds kind of fun, but 235 points is 20 points more, and the shooting is not quite as good. Now, I think if you're going to run Bertha, though, you run Double Storm for 24 Daka shots with some Dev Wound thrown in there. Stand at the back, just blow some stuff away, Griblies. I think that has use depending on your meta. But unless you're doing that, I feel like we don't need Bertha. And the Galactus and the Atlas probably hit just as hard in combat. And the Cletus shoots better, so, and cheaper. So, yeah, I think Bertha might not make it again. Again, it's the problem. It's too good or it's too crappy. Okay. Next, we got the Palace, our mini tank. I really wish these guys had, like, transport capacity for, like, 1. That would be cool. We could take Guardians in 1s. That would be cool. Little Guardian gets out. Little driver inside. Okay, so the Palace shooting. So we know that the Palace shoots Arachnus 24 inches, 8 shots, 5 - 1, 1. So it's like, yeah, not that great. It is twin linked with Dev Wounds, and its ability is that when you shoot something that's under half strength, you get +1 to wound. So I think it has some use there with 8 shots with Daka going on. It is 120 points. It's a little bit more than it used to be. We don't know its stats, and really, we're really interested. Like, is it moving 14 still, or is it down to 12? We don't know how tough it is. Is it going to be like a speeder? We don't know how many wounds it is. Is it 2 up or 3 up? What's the invuln? Presumably, it's still fly. So, like, there's a lot to see about the Palace before we can decide on it. We know so little about it other than its gun. So, yeah. Now, that gun, though, if this thing moves fast and is relatively solid, like 24 inches, moves fast, 8 shots, decent profile for infantry, Dev Wounds, twin linked, like, you could do some stuff with it. Like, that's always been the Palace. It's always been the fast-moving vehicle to go around places and occasionally ping stuff off. It's never the thing that was killing whole units by itself. That's not its role. It was speedy little vehicle with some ping off shooting. And so it could definitely still do that. It's going to depend a little bit on the data sheet, which we just don't know right now. If it goes down to 12-inch move, that's a bit crappy, but to be honest, kind of expected right now. So yeah, so, you know, let's see. The problem is it's still 120 points, so it's got to live up to that a little bit. That's some points there. So, yeah. Okay, let's go. Big Mama. Cletus. Okay, so the Cletus is the winner of the Forgeworld. Like what we know of the Forgeworld right now. So the Cletus we've managed to get some stats on. So T10, 14 wounds. So that's pretty similar to what it was before, which is like T7, 14 wounds. T10 is the new T7. 2 plus 5 plus invuln, apparently. What we don't know is the move. Now, presumably, it's going to be 12 inches down from 14 inches, but it would be super good if it was still 14 inches. And we don't know if it still counts as flying tank. Presumably it will, but we don't know for sure. But what do we know? So we know that the blaze, the heavy blaze or whatever it's called, twin heavy blaze or whatever, 48 inches, so pretty much infinite range. 4 shots, 12 minus 3, d6 plus 2, twin linked. There's our anti-vehicle shooting. Now, strength 12 on the new T8, which is toughness 12, is only winning on 4s, but it's twin linked. And then minus 3, which is great, d6 plus 2. No range or anything on that, just d6 plus 2, so min 3 damage. So, and 4 shots. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It used to be only 2 shots, remember? The problem with Blaze in the old days was only 2 shots, and you could fluff one and then fluff one on the wounds. So 4 shots definitely makes it more reliable. You're taking on small vehicles for sure, and you're putting a dent into big stuff. So that's great. The Iliastus, the accelerator, is 48 inches again. 4 shots, 10 minus 1, 3 damage. So that gets you over that T9 threshold, which is like Rhino toughness. And it's twin linked. And it's rapid fire 4. So within 24 inches, you shoot 8 shots of that. So that's really nice too. Strength 10, minus 1, 3 damage, twin linked at 4 to 8 shots. That's pretty sweet too. And the Lastrum, whatever, 3 shots, 6 minus 1, 1. So that got halved in terms of number of shots. No. Now, its ability is that if it shoots Iliastus, which is the infantry elite gun, into things like that, other than vehicles and monsters, it gets lethal hits, which I believe just means it auto wounds on a hit of 6. If you shoot Blaze, which is the monster vehicle weapon, into monsters' vehicles, you get lethal hits. So whatever gun you take for whatever target you're trying to shoot at, it gets better at it. So that's like great. And this thing is 215 points, which is cheaper than all of our infantry units that we've talked about so far tonight, because they're all minimum 5 or 6 people. It's cheaper than Bertha, and it's less than 2 palace tanks. So yeah, what we don't know is what's its other ability. We don't know that, so it still has one more ability. What's its movement? Hope it's at least 12 inches. And what degrades? I presume is the ballistic skill that degrades, but we don't know that for sure. So yeah, so we needed Forgeworld to give us some mobile anti-vehicle shooting and just some shooting in general, and it has delivered. And these days it's really easy to get cover. People are pointing out in the chat as a vehicle. Like you just see in the designer commentary, you just hide a little bit behind the building and you get cover. So yeah, is it 2-up save? I know my leak had 2-up, yeah, 2-up, 5-up. So it's great because it used to be 3-up, I believe. So that's better too. And then there's cover, so it's a little bit harder to kill. It's got all the shooting that we need, anti-vehicle shooting. The actual Iliastus is really nice too, although the AP1 kind of sucky a little bit, but all the AP kind of went down in the game, so it's expected. 250 points, super reasonable. It's mobile. Now you have the strat to sit on a objective, sticky it, and then move your tank away. I think the Cletus is definitely the winner of this stuff that we're talking about, and I think at least 1, probably 2 in many lists you're going to see, because we need the shooting, and I think it brings it. Now, it's still susceptible to getting blown up, for sure. But with the 5-up invuln, can save it a lot of times. So yeah, so I think this is really good. 1 to 2 per list. Now you can, spam stuff if you want, but like spamming is kind of boring. But yeah, super good Cletus tanks. Who was it that was in the chat who's literally building Cletus tank right now? Cool. Okay. Final thing we're going to talk about is the 2 flyers. We won't spend too much time on the 2 flyers because they were overpriced. And I have them, but I'm not going to dig them out and show them on the stream because they're way too big. But we got the Orion and the Ares. So the Heavy Blaze is actually worse than the Cletus Heavy Blaze, and it's not twin linked with 1 less damage and the same number of shots. So actually the Heavy Blaze on the 2 flyers is worse than the Cletus. The Magna Blaze on the Ares, which is the big blaze, is finally 3 flat shots instead of D3. Finally. And it is strength 18 minus 4 D6 plus 6. So sure, the Ares is going to kill 1 vehicle monster type thing per turn. No doubt. With that profile of shooting. And the Spickless Launcher, which I think is on the Orion, is 36 inches, D6 plus 6, 7 minus 1, 2 damage. Okay, fine. Now, the Ares can drop bombs, and basically the rule is when you fly over a unit, you roll a dice for every model in that unit. On a 6, it does Immortal, so that's kind of meh. But, interestingly, it makes them not benefit from cover, which could be helpful for the rest of the army. And then the Orion is transport, and it allows you to advance and charge when you disembark if it hasn't moved yet. So that's an interesting assault ramp kind of thing on the Orion. Now, the Ares is 580 points, so almost 600 points. And the Orion is 690 points, almost 700 points. So I don't care what kind of guns these things have. These things are too expensive. Too expensive money-wise, too big to carry around in your bag, and too expensive points-wise. So, you know, the Orion is like 3 Cletus and then some. The Ares is almost 3 Cletiuses. Like, these are stupid points. We don't know their toughness, wounds, save, invulns. It doesn't really matter. You're not taking these. And the transport capacity of the Orion, we don't know. We don't know if we can still hold the Dread. Like, it's all stupid. These things are just too expensive. And I'm glad because I hate flyers and I hate Titanic. And even though they're beautiful models and they're my models in my faction, I still hate them. So, yeah. So, good riddance. Don't play these. Yeah. Too bad. Okay. So, overall, the Forgeworld information that we have right now, we are missing a lot of it, but it is decent in terms of what we needed, which is the Cletus and the Galatus, maybe the Echilus. None of the infantry stuff kind of seems like it's really working that well. Venatori, maybe. We've got to try it. But, yeah. But, you know, I think, personally, I have all of this stuff. I would rather our plastic be strong so we didn't have to do any resin and not have to dabble in Forgeworld so that if they never get their act together, we don't have to care about it. So I kind of like where it's at right now. But, yeah. So take home Cletus, Galatus, maybe Achilles, maybe Vens. Everything else you can leave at home. All right. So don't forget the poll, guys. We're going to look at that in a minute, and we're going to answer some questions. All right, triple Calladius time. No. Come on, guys. Try different stuff. It's the beginning of the edition. The index just came out. Don't triple anything. Just try a bunch of stuff. If you see on Discord my list, it's basically like one of everything just to try it out. Don't triple anything right now. Come on. Dread spam. Again, don't spam stuff. Just try different stuff. Just try different stuff. Come on. Now's the time to try. Okay. Questions for tonight specifically. Okay. Why Venatori? Why? Well, don't ask the Venatori. Ask the writers. Okay, Venatori are weird. Strength-based pistols will only damage 1. Spear shooting, but Tarsus buckler. Okay, it seems more like a comment. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen Venatori? Dread spam again. Okay, couple of questions. Dread spam viable? I don't think it's viable. I think anybody can just take you off the table. You don't have a lot of presence on the board. I think it, and I don't want to spam. But minimum amount of Cletus. Yeah, 1 or 2. Will you play this list? Yeah, this is Trajan and his whatever 17 characters list. No, I will not play that. Not least of which because it has Valyrian in it. Okay, is Ares viable? No, it is not. Why are people so down on Venatori when they're clearly great? Well, they're not great. They're okay. We got to try them. 2 times 5 Sags, 1 with Greyfax, 1 with Draxus. What do you think? Well, we don't know if they're battle line. But as I said, if they are battle line and we can't join our normal leaders to them, then we may use Inquisitors. Yeah. If you have space. I mean, I'm already running 4 characters. I don't want to spend any more points on a character, you know. Okay, this is the dawning of the Age of the Cletus. No, the Age of Cletus was many summers ago when everybody was running 3. And then it got tuned down. So don't run 3. We don't want to get them nerfed, okay? Like, it's you guys' fault if it gets nerfed. Okay, is Palace takeable? I think maybe, but we don't know enough about the Palace yet. What points are wrong and need to change? Well, yeah. Is the Ares close to payable? No, it needs to be about like 30% cheaper, 40% cheaper. Okay, any questions on the chat? Post them up. Let's look at the poll. Okay, so the poll says 40%. So the question was, how do you rate Forgeworld rules so far? 40% of people said, amazing, give me that resin. 31% of people said, come on GW, get your act together. 23% of people are indifferent. And 3% of people said, pass, that shit is toxic. Okay, so generally people are positive about it. I think the Custodes probably redeemed it. And we will await anxiously our data sheets. So, yeah, let's see if there's any questions on the chat. Knights are getting hammered. There's no character you can attach to Venatori. Custodes, no questions here. Aquilon. Yeah, Aquilon, we're just lackluster. I'd rather take Alaris. And okay. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for following and subscribing and supporting the channel. Join the Discord. Join our community of Custodes people. It's really cool in there. We're talking constantly. And thanks for watching, guys. And sorry we didn't bring a game for you tonight. Francois is busy and Phil's busy, so we had to cancel. But we could talk this show instead. And we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good weekend.